Well, welcome to another one of our preview videos here on the BBC Sport website. Delighted to say that Gary Anderson, our technical analyst for 2012, is with us for this one. Behind us, Eddie Jordan has got all the cameras and all the focus and all the lights on him. He loves his new job on the telly, doesn't he?
Normal.
He was a man made for television, wasn't he?
Oh yes, for sure.
What was he like to work with? Because you obviously designed his race-winning Jordan cars back in the day.
Absolute nightmare.
He
hasn't really changed. Yeah, his concentration is about level is about seconds, I think. Yeah.
So take us back to Jordan in the late 90s. What was an average day in the office like when you come up with a great innovation for the new car? You go to see Eddie with it. What was the?
He was asleep normally within about 10 seconds of trying to tell him.
Right. Okay.
It just washed over here.
And what was he? Well, he'd say, "How much is it going to cost me?"
Yeah, that was a normal thing. How much would it cost? But no, he was good. It was good. We were a small team trying to take on the big boys, as David knows, and it was, you got to look at it. It's fun. It's not easy. We look at all these people who criticise them, but it's a tough whole life to be honest to get the car performance you need.
Absolutely. And it's great for us to have Gary this year because often Formula One teams will tell you what they want to tell you rather than actually what the reality is. And this is a man who will not have the wool pulled over his eyes because he's the one that's knitted those jumpers.
Well, that's a very good expression. And I think that Gary is absolutely key to the coverage this year because the technical understanding that he has, he's been there at the drawing board.
Yeah.
Did you use a drawing board? Or were
yeah,
you,
I started at the drawing board,
so Adrian Newey-esque and a bit of both. And the feature that you guys did together down at the McLaren launch, I found myself watching it from start to finish.
You learned something?
Yeah.
Of course I learned something because he was explaining technical parts that we, to understand the theory that the designer might have had. It's only, of course, one point of view, but what it will do is challenge all of the designers of the teams. When Gary gives an opinion, it throws down a challenge to them to tell us that that's not the way that they were thinking when they designed the part, or that's not what they think the influence of that will be on the racetrack. So I think it actually exposes, the BBC and the coverage that we'll have into an area where we've not had before, because it's only been opinion, from a driving point of view or, a team owner's point of view. But really, the technology is what makes Formula One special.
Good.
It is, yeah.
So now we've actually got an opinion of someone who really knows what they're looking at and seeing. So what have you learned from testing then? Talk us through, because we've been discussing it and it's so difficult to decipher what the times mean and things. How would you assess?
Oh yeah, I mean the big change is really the nose, which is obviously fairly visible, and that's just a safety thing. But the change in regulation there didn't really achieve the goal of lowering the noses. So really it hasn't got a big influence on anything other than the fact that the cars that look ugly have got a higher chassis. They get more room to exploit the airflow underneath the chassis. McLaren are the only team that's gone one way and not done it.
Yeah.
And I think McLaren bolted on some bits on Saturday afternoon, and when they go, the car went faster, and when they go back from testing, they'll probably think that thing could have been a lot bigger if we'd had a higher chassis. So they might just have learned that they needed to do it. Exhaust pipe location is the biggest thing that they're playing around with at the moment. Most teams are trying different solutions to that to try to get something back from what they had last year, but it's going to be a very small percentage. So I think you can, as I put the Ferrari thing, I said, Ferrari have concentrated on the icing on the cake, but they actually forgot the cake mix. And the icing's really good, but the cake's terrible. So
no one wants bad cake.
No, nobody wants bad cake, but they need to go back and sort of get the basics of the car right first before they apply all those tricks and stuff to it. So it's not, testing's always difficult because people are on different fuel loads. It's one of those sort of situations where we'll never know till we get to Melbourne.
Yeah.
But I think the midfield has gone better. They've closed up quite a bit. McLaren looks strong both for Jenson and for Lewis. I mean, normally you'll see the car, if it's not very good, with Lewis the car looks a bit nervous, but he's willing to drive it, and that means Jenson pays a price. That doesn't look like that now, so I think they've got a good car for both of them. Red Bull, difficult to know yet. They had a troubled day on the Sunday, a few reliability issues. It looks okay. I wouldn't have said they've maybe got the gap they had last year, so I think it's all just going to be that bit closer. Lotus has done a good job. It's good to get Kimi back in the car. He definitely wrings its neck. So I think we're going to get a lot closer competition this year. Not sure the order will really change, but because the competition's closer, there's going to be room for some people to fall back on the wayside if they don't get it right.
It's music to our ears, David. A close season's just what we want, isn't it?
Well, indeed. There's a lot of talk about having 6 world champions on the grid. That is unique. A lot of guys with winning credentials, a lot of teams that have won Grand Prix over the years.
Yeah.
So it's a big year for a number of teams out there. McLaren, they really need to show that they can win a Drivers' Championship again and a Constructors' Championship, which they've not done since '98. That wasn't designed by McLaren, that part there. That just fell down.
Something just collapsed, but it's okay.
That was HRT's crash test.
We're talking about reliability.
Actually, talking about HRT and Virgin, HRT unveiled their car yesterday. Virgin haven't run their car in testing because they didn't pass the crash tests. What kind of a shape, what kind of a situation are those teams in?
It's pretty scary, really, to be honest. HRT, I think you can sort of okay.
Yeah.
They're trying very hard just to survive. They've been through the ringer a bit, really, with all that sort of stuff. But they're there. They've got a car now. I think Pedro de la Rosa joining them is good because that will stabilise them a little bit. They're not going to be competitive, but they need to get a stable year underneath their belt and get going. But for Mauritia, it's a bit disappointing. You know, they should be in a slightly different league from that. They shouldn't be fighting the crash tests. They shouldn't be this late in getting the car ready. They're going to go to Australia basically out of control.
Yeah.
And you know, they're going to have to bite the bullet and then take this year as it comes at them. But it's a tough place to start, I'll tell you.
Very interesting. Well, look forward to seeing you in Australia.
I'll be there.
Look forward to seeing you there as well. And I guess that between now and then, Eddie will just hang out in front of the cameras, do his thing, and be the star of the show.
Yeah.
He
why
is the
not?
star of the show, you know.
Yeah,
There's no question about that.
That's what he told me.
Yeah. I bet he did.